Hi, everybody. This is Adam Ellenboss from Nightlight Astrology. It's Monday, November 25th, and we are on the eve of a new moon in the sign of Sagittarius. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But before I do that, I'm going to take you through a case study from my horary practice, a mother asking, will my daughter get into the college of her choice? The reason that I'm going to start there is because there's a simple concept in horary astrology, in ancient astrology in general, that I'm going to illustrate in that chart that can be used in order to understand any new moon. And a lot of transits in general. It's a widely applicable rule, but pretty cool to use for this new moon in particular. So that's how we're going to do this today. Meanwhile, I'm at 111 backers in my annual Kickstarter campaign. The goal is to beat last year's record, which was 419. We're off to an incredible start, the fastest start I've had in 6 years of doing this. I've been writing daily content, 250 over 300 days of the year for 6 going on 7 years now. And the joy that I take in doing this is pretty indescribable. It's something that has formed the daily basis of my spiritual practice for a really long time. I get up in the morning, I practice my yoga, I practice mantra meditation, I read all different kinds of sacred scriptures from around the world, I study astrology, and then I write whatever I'm going to write for the day or produce whatever video content I'm going to make for the day and share it with all of you. It goes out every year. I had a social media person kind of help me figure this out. It goes out every year to literally hundreds of thousands of people that come into contact with my work every year because of the volume of content that I create. So what I try to do is rally the support of my core audience, those people who really tune into me and really like the work that I do. It's a big part of how I support myself as a professional astrologer. And so I just, at this time of year, I ring the bell and I say, hey, if you like this channel, please consider pitching in. When you do so, you can pick up a reward reading. I'll personalize a year ahead reading for you, or you can get hugely discounted tuition to one of my online courses. They all start in June of 2020, and then I have some courses that start again in November of 2020. Those courses are awesome if you want to take your study of astrology deeper. You can check them out on the certification course at my website, which is nightlightastrology.com. I'd love to have you along. It's the biggest saving you'll get on those tuition packages all year long, the cheapest that I offer them. So there's a lot of good reasons to pitch in and help. I try to give something in return to make it a karma yoga. Yeah, I just really appreciate your help. The link to my Kickstarter is in the description of this video as well as in the comments section. And for those of you who've heard me go on about this, don't worry, you only have to do it until January 1st. That's my fundraising drive every year. And I try to keep it short and sweet. So anyway, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I promise I'll give you my best work again in 2020. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to talk about this horary chart. Will my daughter get into the college that she wants to get into? And then we're going to talk about how the simple rule in this horary chart can help us understand the new moon that's coming up in Sagittarius. So, okay, this mother is asking the question, will my daughter get into the college of her choice? This is a practice, horary astrology, that has been around for a very long time. It's a very ancient form of astrology, and it's really cool. Most people don't know about it. So we start off with a question, and then we cast a chart for the moment that the question is conceived, like the birth of a question. The chart reflects the question, and there are techniques that we use in order to discern an answer to the question. This is a little bit like a magic 8-ball versus, say, a birth chart, where it's more about reading the totality of your life karma. It's a bit more like yes or no, or yes, this is going to happen in particular, or what have you. So will my daughter get into the college? The person asking the question is always given the ruler of the ascendant. In this case, mom is Mars. Okay. But she's not really important to this question because she's asking about her daughter. Who is her daughter? The 5th house ruler of children. So that would be the moon, because we see Cancer sitting on the 5th house cusp. And for horary, we do use a quadrant-based form of house division. The teachers that I studied with taught me on Regiomontanus, so that's the house system that I use in case you're a house system nerd. So at any rate, the moon comes to represent daughter. Now we need to represent school. Which is school? Well, higher education, place of higher education would be the 9th house. So the 9th house ruler is going to be Jupiter. So we're trying to see, will there be aspectual connection between the moon and Jupiter? That's a simple way of looking at how whether or not daughter gets into the school. Now, we want to see a smooth, uninterrupted aspect between the moon and Jupiter, which we do not see here because the moon hits Venus first by a sextile. It's almost perfect. It's like, oh, well, look, the moon's going to hit Jupiter. Yeah, but it hits Venus first. And this is what's called a prohibition. In ancient astrology and horary astrology in particular, we want to see an unimpeded aspect. If something gets in between, it's like saying no because something else happens or something else comes up. We don't always know what, except for one important thing. Sometimes there will be very context specific situations in which the planet that should signify the thing that we need to signify, in this case, an institute of higher education, will not be the house ruler. And it will be another planet. Why would that be the case? Well, again, it's very context specific. In this case, the moon is in the sign of Libra. So we can tell what the moon is interested in by virtue of whose sign the moon is in. The moon is interested in Venus-y things, a simple way of thinking about it, because the moon is in Venus's sign. So the moon is interested in or ruled by Venus-y things. And the moon is going straight into a smooth, unimpeded sextile with its ruler. For ancient horary astrologers, this was an indication that the things sought after would be obtained, because the moon is interested in Venus things by virtue of being in Venus's sign and goes straight to Venus. We know that the daughter is interested in Venus and is going straight to Venus. And where is Venus? Venus is in the 9th house of higher education. So in this case, this is a likely testimony that she does get what she wants, and that Venus, perhaps not Jupiter, is signifying the place of higher education. However, because the moon goes straight to Jupiter right after Venus, it really doesn't matter. They're both really benefic planets anyway. And so on another level of analysis in this question, the truth of the matter is that we have two different kinds of testimonies that traditionally would probably lead to a yes, she gets in. One is the planet that shows what the girl's interested in, Venus in the 9th house of higher education, going right towards that with a sextile. But on the other hand, the traditional ruler of the 9th house, Jupiter, the moon hits right after the sextile to Venus. In this case, that's not so troubling. So that's a fun horary that I judged for this woman, saying, yeah, looks like she's going to get into the school of her choice. If not the school of her choice, then at least it'll be a school that she really likes based on the mitigating factor of reception here, which means that the planet is going to a smooth relationship with its host, moon in Venus's sign, going to Venus. So this is a good testimony. Now, I show you that because A, horary is fun, and I like showing horary examples. I find that they teach us how to think more like diviners, because charts are often, we look at charts in modern astrology usually through the lens of like personality profiling, but they're actually really oracular and predictive, and ancient astrology is rooted in divination and the study of omens. And this is part of how ancient astrology was practiced. And I just find that if you're exposed to it, it starts shifting your mind and your heart in relation to astrology a little bit. It makes it a little bit more magical. Anyway, but the point of sharing this with you is actually to bring it back to the idea of the new moon. Now, you may see the aspect lines are on right here, and I'm going to actually turn them off. I always tell people, by the way, to turn off your aspect lines in your chart, because you'll learn a lot more about how to identify aspects in a chart if you don't have all the crazy lines in the middle of the chart. Whole sign houses helps too. This is in Placidus at the moment because I can't figure out how to change solar fire to default settings on my astro clock to whole sign. If someone knows solar fire out there better than I do, you can tell me, but I just haven't had time to tinker around with it enough. And I just, honestly, I hate doing so anyway, but okay. Right now we have a dark moon in Scorpio, fun. Deep period of kind of more intense letting go of things, capable of that right now. It's good to be willing to do that right now, is what I should say, because we just had a Mars opposite Uranus transit yesterday. It's separating for the next couple of days, still going to be feeling that. It's an intense time of releasing as we come to this new moon. But the good thing about this new moon, really, wait a second, I don't think my screen is shared. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that if it was stuck. No, now it's back to where it was. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Okay, now here we are. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, now you should be able to see the transits on the wheel. Now let's animate this. Okay, there we go. Sorry, a little tinkering here. Okay, so we have the new moon coming through in Sagittarius. Let's see what this looks like. So there's tomorrow, and this is early morning tomorrow morning. The moon and the sun getting together in Sagittarius. So what we want to say is this: we want to use the same concept. It's a simple concept that you can use to trace planet or track the planets at a little deeper level, and make interpretations that are a little bit more nuanced and specific. And you can just start with this simple little trick: the moon and the sun, a new moon in Sagittarius. What is the next lunar cycle about? And you can just look and say, well, what are the sun and the moon interested in? They're interested in Jupiter-y things, right? They're interested in some Jupiter-ishness. So they're interested in Jupiter things because they're in Jupiter's sign. Simple way, again, of if you try to keep things as simple as you can in ancient astrology, it really helps to come away with the cleanest, most efficient interpretations. So they're interested in Jupiter things. And what's happening to Jupiter in this cycle? Jupiter is moving from being in the sign of its domicile, its home sign, into its fall. Venus has just entered Capricorn. Saturn and Pluto are coming together in Capricorn. There's an eclipse happening in Capricorn. This is an interesting cycle. So how can we read that? First of all, let's start by asking the question, what does it mean to be interested in Jupiter things? All right, well, Jupiter is the god that has to do with the sense of cosmic order, whether that's the search for truth as a physicist or as an astrologer or a cosmologist or a mystic. Jupiter has to do with the sense that there is some overarching unity or core unity in reality itself. And when we connect with that in terms of society, it's the legal system, it's the Constitution, so on and so forth. It's when I was on a student council type of body when I was in high school, and there was this thing called Robert's Rules of Order, and it was a way of conducting meetings. There was a whole lingo around it, and it was really interesting. It was very Jupiterian, right, in the sense that people always think of Saturn as the rules and structure, but actually Saturn has more to do with, in ancient astrology, Saturn has more to do with decay and dissolution and death and ruin and things like that. There's some ways in which Saturn does signify boundaries and structures. I'm not saying that's not true, but when we talk about systems of rule, law, governance that create the idea of behind which is to create some larger unity or order, that's actually Jupiter in ancient astrology. So Jupiter is when we see a new moon in Jupiter's sign, we could say that in the month ahead, you're going to be interested in finding, creating, or connecting to your moral center, your ethical center, your philosophical center, your sense of greater order and unity in the cosmos, your sense of faith and trust in a larger whole of which you are a part, your sense of commitment to a larger philosophical system or a greater value, cause, mission, ideal that you believe brings some greater unity to your life or to the cosmos. It's a time of evaluating your ethical commitments, things like that. Jupiterian cycle. On the other hand, Jupiter is also a planet that has to do with excessiveness. Sometimes there is a kind of reckless, hedonistic Zeus energy around a new moon in Sagittarius. If you listen to my talk on the sun entering Sagittarius that I did a couple of days ago, you know that Sagittarius and Jupiter has a kind of reckless side, hence the archetype of the centaur, who can be really destructive and rowdy archetype, and can have a lot to do with the story of redemption. The I once was lost, but now am found story. I've lost my moral center. I've lost the larger story. I've lost the plot, as they say, but now I'm returning to it, of faith lost and faith restored, of sometimes dogmatism, zeal, and the destructiveness of being overly committed or too intense about one's overarching beliefs or values. So this new moon cycle has a lot to do with that. You could also say that there's just a feeling in the air around the new moon cycle of liftedness and abundance. And that could be just a simple, great thing. Now, here's the big part. Here's the big caveat. The cycle starts off with Jupiter culminating in Sagittarius, sort of giving its last gifts while in its home sign, a place where it can be very effective at being itself. It's like you or I being in our own house. We can really just do our thing. So Jupiter's been in a pretty powerful position. Now Jupiter's about to enter Capricorn, where it's in the sign of its fall. Highly recommend you check out the video I did recently about Jupiter moving into Capricorn for more on that. But the short of it is that Jupiter in Capricorn can fall on hard times. Jupiter in Capricorn is sometimes about the need for some new order, some new moral virtue vision, some restoral of faith, but it starts from a lowly beginning, or it starts through some kind of disillusionment, or it starts by casting off something from the past, or it starts by having to reject something, or it starts by the moral or spiritual or philosophical order being threatened in some way. Jupiter in Capricorn is the fall of Jupiter. And for example, during 2007 and 2008, we had the recession, which was in Jupiter was in Capricorn. We had the recession, the major recession, and that was a moment of a sobering wake-up call for the established order in the whole world, really. And so Jupiter in Capricorn can do that. It can be about the death and rebirth of these larger systems of government, morality, et cetera, et cetera. It is a time to have a meaningful change of heart, change of faith, change of vision. And you're going to feel that really acutely as this new moon cycle moves on into the first week of December. I'll be revisiting Jupiter's entrance into Capricorn again and doing some more on that in the upcoming weeks. But so it's a Jupiterian cycle, but it's based on a critical change in Jupiter that's happening as the cycle unfolds. So watch for that in your own heart, in your own mind, how you're perceiving reality and how you are living within various systems of moral, spiritual, ethical, philosophical order in the cosmos. How are those systems changing or being challenged for you right now? Those are some pretty basic things that you can look after in the cycle ahead. So, but take the larger rule and apply it to anything in astrology, right? For example, let's pop this back up on the screen for just 1 second and give you one more taste of this. So let's say that you're looking and you see that Mercury is in the sign of Scorpio right now and having just turned direct, picking up forward movement again. Well, that means that Mercury is interested in doing Mars-like things or will be directed towards Mars-like things. That means your mind might be occupied with more intense, deep, emotional, turbulent thoughts. Co-present with Mars in the same sign, there might be some, mental, communicative intensity right now. Visiting deep, taboo, difficult subjects, for example. Why are we saying that? It's not just, oh, well, Mercury's in Scorpio and Scorpio's like that. No, it's that Mercury has a vested interest in Mars right now. So that's how you connect those dots and make a little bit more beautiful interpretation. Well, when Jupiter enters Capricorn, Venus enters Capricorn, Pluto's in Capricorn, everyone has a vested interest in the feminine, earthy Saturn right now. So that's the story. And that's what I cover in my talk on Jupiter entering Capricorn as well. So you can use this technique from the horary we looked at today. Let's all root for that young woman to get into the school that she wants to. In the meantime, I hope I'm right about that. It'd be really crappy if I wasn't. Anyway, so thank you for watching. And again, if you're able to, please pitch into my annual Kickstarter. I really appreciate your support, and we'll see you again soon. Have a happy new moon.